Today we're going to talk about how to make a Tiki God. This is a combination of slab and coiling you built. You've already kind of slab built like a hollow, a lidded vessel, mug, slab mug. You've coiled a little bit, either it's your smooth coil vase, it's something with texture coils, all kinds of things. We're combining this together to make a texture item. The new thing we're talking about doing is sculpting a face, which I've done here on this. I'll kind of walk you through the process. I'm not going to finish the whole entire thing, but it gives you an idea of what we're going to do. The whole thing needs to be 10 inches tall. There needs to be a split between coils and slab building. So the coil part itself, the slab part, I'm sorry, is 5 inches. Everything else, coiling is 5 inches as well, so it makes a total of 10. You can, 3 options, you can do this. There are 3 options. You can put all the coils on the bottom and add your slab on top. You can put the slab on the bottom, add all the coils on top. Totally up to you. The last couple big things you gotta do is there must be texture over the whole entire piece, including the slab. The cool part about it, your coils are the texture. Your texture already there, you just smooth the inside nice and smooth. But the outside has all the texture. You have to sculpt the face, make it push out a bit, stand out, add some texture there as well. Also, you're gonna research one of the Tiki Gods and add some stuff on there that kind of symbolize behind that Tiki God. You have to make exactly like that one, but you have to add certain things to it, kind of to define what it is. I just had a little gecko and some flowers. You're gonna go a little more in depth than I did. And then at the end, we're gonna use shoe polish over this whole entire thing, and then cover them with crayons. At the end, we'll use crayon for a little bit of color. And that's what we're gonna do here for this project. It's a little Tiki God project. First thing you need for your form is a Pringles can. If you use a Pringles can, it's the same way we made with our lidded cylinder. It's going to be 11 inches round by 5 inches tall. I have a variety of other size cylinders that if you want to use, you can. If you're using a super wide one, I'll let you make the Tiki God a little bit smaller. Just ask me, and you don't have to use a Pringles can if you do not want to. But the first thing you do with your Pringles can, as we demoed before, is you got to wrap it in newspaper. It doesn't need a ton of newspaper. Just one little piece of newspaper is all you're going to need to wrap around this form. So I take it and just wrap it around it. Probably only needs to be, let's see. Yep. You don't want to put a ton of newspaper on there because then it makes it harder to get your piece off later. And you want to make sure it's somewhat loose on the piece. You're going to need one piece of tape. So there we go. I have it on there, so it's not going to come off. So it's wrapped in newspaper. If tapes come off, that's okay because you don't want it to be super tight on your can either. Now, the next thing I do is I roll out a slab of clay. You're going to get 5 pounds for this project. So about 3.5 of it, you're going to have to put through the slab roller. My recommendation also is I'm going to give you pretty good wedged clay. If you make a mistake, you have to really wedge the clay, so really take your time and build this correctly. So you have a nice, smooth cylinder. So you have it, it's 11 inches long, 5 inches tall. You're going to use the 45-degree tool again to cut some angles on this piece. So what I do is I'm going to draw it down one side of my slab. I've already made it, it's 11 by 5. I'm going to flip it over and do the exact same thing again. Like on the box, we cut it on all 4 sides. We're not doing that because I want it to be wrapped around this can. So now I have my angles nicely done. Now I'm going to take it and begin to wrap it around my cylinder form. It does not have to be perfect for making tikis. Not like I made you guys on the cylinder form where it had to be perfectly round, this, that, and the other. It can be a little bit different and misshapen because that's okay because tikis aren't perfect. So again, I'm going to blend this on. And you're also going to warp and put a face on it anyways. So it's going to be a little different for you. So now I have my base wrapped around it. I'm going to leave it on the can for a while. I can leave it on for a day or a little bit of time depending on how long it takes you to do this. That's what you're going to do. But I'm going to demonstrate today how to split the coils. So I'm going to do some coils on the bottom and the rest of the coils on top. I'm just going to demo how to do that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Pringles can here and I'm going to put it aside. I have a pre-made slab already done so I can make the bottom of my base. It needs a bottom solid bottom on it so I can build around it with my coils. So what I do is, I'm going to measure with a ruler the bottom width. And if I remember correctly with Pringles cans, it's about 3.5 inches diameter, which is, for those who need help with a little bit of math, for radius, it's 1 3/8 is what we're going to do. So I find the inch, put my thing there, and I'm going to measure 3/8. If it's a little bit bigger, that's fine. It does not matter. Because like again, this isn't a perfect shaped item. I use my slab I have pre-cut. You may have to roll out a slab again to make this circle. I put my tool in, I spun it around just like you did. We made the smooth coil base. Have a nice little circle piece all cut out. I have my piece right here. Take that hole, fill it in. Now I'm going to begin to start building my piece. Normally I'll score and slip, but I'm not keeping this, so I'm just not going to do that. You'll have to score and slip. If you look closely, it's pretty darn close to what I have already there, so I know it's going to work. Now I'm going to add coils. Now again, when you made your smooth coil base, you made coils pretty thick. You're not going to always do that. You're going to make them a little bit thinner in size. So I'm going to take some clay. I'm also going to make patterns out of them as well. So different kind of shapes, whatever I want to do to build them up. Totally up to you. Play around with these. They don't have to be perfectly round coils. Just remember, the inside is going to have all the texture, the outside is going to be smooth. So I'm going to put aside my base for a second. A few things out of the way. I'm going to roll some coils again, spray the table, and roll. I did, like I said before, squeezed out the clay to thin it out a bit so I can make it easier for rolling out my coils. So there you go. There it is right there. So there's my coil. Now I'm going to make a design out of it to put around my base. You can do a plain coil if you want to start off with. It's totally up to you. Whenever I add a weird, crazy coil texture, I always try to blend on something a little different. I'm going to do something a little different on this one. I'm going to make little circles. I'm going to make a bunch of them. Try to make them roughly the same size. Pretty close to the same size as you can. So I have them like this. Then I'm going to blend the inside of each of them because I want to be smooth, but it's easier now to blend them than when I try to put them up onto the piece. I'm going to cut them in half. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them around my base of my piece. I might not need them all, but it doesn't hurt to have a few extra to fill in gaps and spaces. If I have a little gap in space, I'll look at mine and see, will this one fit better? I get more space. Closer. Up there. There we go. So now it's all filled in. I try to make it mimic the shape of my circle. That's why the inside's so nice and smooth. Then I take a little wooden stick. After I score and slip them. I'm not scoring and slipping right now because this is a demonstration. I score and slip them down, and then I go back in and blend them up. Try to make sure they're really well blended on the piece. Then I can play around with this design a little bit and go, yeah, I'm going to put them right here. Again, brace with one hand, blend down on the inside. Make sure everything is really well blended together. That's why I make the coils a little bit thick, because I'm going to push that clay around and really blend them all together. Now again, if you have any gaps or spaces you're worried about, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about that? Make sure you have the coils going the right direction. Smooth on the inside, texture on the outside. I can take some of the extra clay, I'll show you that in a second, kind of fill in those gaps and holes. Because again, I'm trying to get this to be a good sturdy structure to hold my tiki on. Because if not, it's just going to fall apart. And begin to fill in some of the gaps and spaces I have with this clay. As you can see, I'm filling them in. Now what I'm going to do is I got my base kind of started. My cylinder's here. I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes, maybe the next day, and be able to assemble them together. Okay, I've taken the cylinder out of its can. I've taken the newspaper off of it. You've popped them out before. I'll probably help a lot of you out with this, but we'll do that. If for some reason it sticks, you may have to cut it at an angle, get it off. I was fortunate enough I didn't have to do that. Now I'm going to score and slip this cylinder to this piece here. Now, if you already look, some of you are like, oh, I got to make something really tall. Well, I've got it almost 7 inches tall. I got about 3 more inches to go on my piece. I've also got the assistance of a little swirler or spinner here to help out with this process a little bit faster. Now, I am going to demonstrate this scoring and slipping because it may have been sitting for a day, and it's very important we score and slip this. Okay, again, we're going to score and slip these 2 pieces, apply the slip. Both areas. Then I'm going to press them together. Now the critical part of this whole process is blending the inside. Now there's a couple ways I can do it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that coil that's at the very top. I'm going to demonstrate here for you. I'm really going to blend it all together. I'm bracing it with one hand, and I'm kind of blending these 2 pieces together. That is crucial. If you don't have this gap or space like I do, like I've added on here, you can add a small coil in there to help blend the seam together. But you really want to make sure these 2 things are blended well together. Because if not, that's pretty well for now blended together. Once I have that all together, I can begin to think about my face on my tiki. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press out certain features of my tiki's face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an eyeball right about here, eyeball here, mouth is going to be right about here, and my nose is going to be right about there. I can add stuff on and cut it out, but I really want to push the clay out because I have some clay here to push out, and it gives it a little more depth to the piece. So I take my finger and I begin to push out the nose. Press the clay back in, make the nose narrow. The great thing about it, it's not real, so I don't have to worry about super amount of detail. Like I don't have to make sure the eye's in the right spot. You can make big eyes, small eyes, a big nose, just does not matter. I'm going to come in here and give it some big nostrils. Push out that a little bit more. Some big nostrils there. I can use a wooden stick around it as well. Kind of begin to add some, define some shape to it, and also come back in and get its nostrils as well. If I poke through the nostrils, that's okay. So we're not going to use this to hold liquid or anything. It's more for just detail. I can come back over and smooth it over with my finger, get rid of some of those cracks, and all that stuff. I can even take a sponge if I want, make sure it's slightly damp, kind of go back over a little bit as well and get rid of some of those lines. Now I have a nose on there and I have a ridge for where the brow is going to be because I'm going to add some coils again on top of this, and I want to make sure it's got a nice shape to it. And then I can look at it with my needle tool. I'm not going to cut through, I'm just going to loosely draw what I want my eyes to be. I can cut them out, I can leave them on. It's totally up to you. Just going to do a little rough outline where some eyeballs are right now. So we have the eyes and the nose kind of shaped out. We're talking about. Then we're going to add the mouth. Again, we're not going to cut anything out right now because we cut out the mouth or do any manipulation of the mouth, adding the stuff on top. It's going to collapse my slab. It's going to make it extremely weak. So a tiki's got the big grinning, wide open mouth face. So I'm going to do that with it as well. I'm going to make a big, gnarly looking little piece here. Just loosely draw one out so it's kind of on there. And that's pretty much it. If I want, I can cut this out, add teeth like I did before in my demonstration piece. or I can leave it in there. It's totally up to you, or cut the eyes out. Just remember, every plane we add something, you can add some texture to it. So what I'm going to do here is, but this one here, I'm just going to kind of, you can do this too, just draw a line. This. Add some teeth that way. Then we come back in here, get my hand back by that mouth and push those teeth out a little bit. So I have some teeth there. Now what I can do is I can take a little bit of coil of clay, very skinny little coil of clay, and I can add it around my mouth. Again, you want to score and slip this stuff on. So it has that look of teeth. You can see it takes more work to do that. I'm not going to just make you watch me for a couple hours designing it. Now, what I can do is, before I cut anything else out, adding more details on, I want to add coils on top because I have to make it, 10 inches tall. And right now we're sitting at 7. So I got to add a few more coils. I'm going to add one more coil to this and kind of see what we do on the very top of it. I'm going to keep it on a little spinny thing here. Again, I'm going to roll the clay out, pinch it out, make it into some form of a pattern or design. I think I'm going to do a little twist one here for the top. I'm going to take the clay, I'm going to make it a little bit thinner than we told you to do originally because I'm twisting 2 coils together. So I have it here, pretty close. I'm going to cut it, even it up a little bit. Then what I do is I spray it with some water. I flip them over, spray it with some water. Because I want it to be somewhat moist. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist them together. We're going to crack and break a little bit. It's just going to happen. The clay doesn't like doing this. It's just part of the natural thing. So you have to smooth and shape and kind of keep pushing them back together. So you're naturally going to want to do that. Then what I tend to do is I'm going to take it, kind of tap down the side of it, because that's going to be the inside. And I want it to be somewhat smooth or flat. That's easier for it to blend on if I do it that way. It may flat out the other side a little bit, but it makes it so it's easier to get on there. I put the coil on there. Almost fits around. If I have to, I can cut it, put another piece in there, and then I score and slip this piece on. Again, blend the 2 pieces together. I keep adding coils, so I said till I get, that's even 8, so a couple more inches of coil making will get me there. Now a couple more things to talk about on this design. I'm not going to keep building up on this because it's just a demonstration piece, but I also want to mark off, like, yep, this is going to be my face here. So I know what my face is going to be on my tiki. I can come back here, add texture like wood, but I got to think about what else I'm going to add to the background of this. What kind of texture I'm going to add to it. You can use tools, you can do anything, you can kind of just carve into it. It's totally up to you on how you're going to finish off this piece. I've added more details, stuff like that, but I've added texture real quick. You got to think about, I got to add things onto it that go along with that Hawaiian theme. Whatever yours is, you can add flowers, you can add, I don't know if it's the war god, like spearheads, all kinds of things to give it that kind of a feel and texture. But the biggest one people like to add, because it's Hawaiian, is add flowers. How do you make a flower? Very simple and straightforward here, how to make a flower piece. All I do is make kind of a Hawaiian-looking flower is use heart-shaped petals. It's very common, very simple. And all I do is I'm just going to draw some heart shapes. About 4 of them is what I'm going to need. I'm going to take them, pitch them out a little bit thinner, because you're making little petals. I kind of begin to pinch them together to shape them. I'm not so worried about the inside of them right now because I'm going to show you a trick where you won't be able to see that afterwards. If I kind of push it together, I'm going to shape it, almost give it the look of a flower shape. Let's say I want to add a flower here, let's say, wherever that line is there. All I do is I'm going to score it. Score the area where I'm going to attach it. Add some slip. Press it on there. Really press it so it doesn't come off. Now the last thing I'm going to do is it needs a piece in the middle. Take a little ball of clay here. I usually get this just a little bit wet because it's going to stay. I'm done pressing it in there. And I put my finger and I press it in. And I use the back of any kind of little stick or something, blend it in there. It gives it that look of a flower. Remember, it's got to be 10 inches tall. Pattern's going to be around the whole entire thing. How you're going to finish out the eyes, how you're going to cut out the final project is the key. And it should look in the end something like, you can see one being built here to right here. And get started on your tiki.